graduating. That means that one
This
out of
meeting is
10
being
people
recorded.
end up dropping out from a tech-related industry or computer science once they make it to the senior year. And as we know, the reasons of this is definitely like a long list, but it pretty much comes down to about 3 or 4 major things. First is that just like lack of like knowledge about the field, of having like, not having a mentor or someone to guide you is the biggest piece. Second piece is that, computer science is very difficult, very challenging. So without a strong support system, oftentimes people end up just not progressing throughout the process. And I also say that just like maybe pressure from like external community, given that we're all Ghanaians and our parents want us to be a doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, etc., oftentimes a career in tech is often overlooked. So we get peer pressure to change in our mind and not pursuing that path. So these are all things that can contribute to these stats we see here. And then like, let's continue like this funnel, right? For those who actually end up pursuing a career in tech or computer science and going to the workforce, if you look at all the workforce for tech top companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc., only about 7% of the workforce are Black. So that means that like we're not even at the table, right? When they're developing all these software, all these programs, we're not even present there. So that means that our interests are not accounted for. And then if you look at people who actually start in companies like Facebook or startups, only about 0.4% of the founders are Black. So we're not getting into school for technology. We're not getting into the workforce in technology. We're not starting our own companies for technology. So that means that the whole sort of cycle perpetuates where we are often behind and we don't help address these gaps. So it's very critical that we understand the problem that is currently there and how we're trying to address that. Next slide, please. So I want to paint a picture that there's a lot of like different nonprofits tackling this work from different angles, right? There's this concept called the leaky tech pipeline. And what it argues is that at every step of the funnel, from like pre-K to 12, more Black people who have some interest in technology are dropping out all the way through entrepreneurship. And every step of the process, they drop out because of different reasons. And it's critical that we understand that there are a lot of nonprofits tackling this work from different angles. I think oftentimes it seems like, there's a lot of nonprofits doing the same work and it's redundant. But if you think about it in perspective, they're all tackling different issues in the spectrum. So if you look at from pre-K to 12, so for those of you who are in middle school, in kindergarten, or even in high school, definitely like look at these programs that is on the slide and get involved, right? For example, Girls Who Code, they pretty much work with girls who are in high school and middle school, and just teach you how to code or just get you interested in computer science very early on. So all those other nonprofits or other organizations are there to showcase you to about the investment that's happening in this area and how you can get involved. Now, what Sankofa Tech does is that we see that we found like the most prevalent issue happen at the higher education, because that's where, I guess, based on our own personal experience, we were most affected by. So at Sankofa Tech, we only focus on people who are going from high school to college. And then throughout the entire college journey, we help them stay computer science or tech majors and also help them graduate overall. And then at the tail end, you have like different organizations who are tackling these issues there, but I'll not spend too much time talking about that. Next slide, please. One more slide. Cool. So based on the problem that I pretty much surfaced, we, as a nonprofit, all of us are like Ghanaian, or most of us are Ghanaian Adventists. We took a step back. Okay, how can we better help tackle this problem in a bit more sustainable way? So we created the Achievers in Technology program, where essentially we take students who are going from high school to college, freshmen, and then over the 4 years, we provide them the resources that will help them stay interested in a career in tech and also help them graduate. So at a high level, the program provides 4 key benefits. So the first one is mentorship, right? We assign a mentor to every single student who is in our program over the 4 years in college. And these mentors are professionals who are Black most of the time, who work at top tech companies, like, as I mentioned, Facebook, Google, etc., to ensure that they have someone who's like, they can relate to and also like looks like them to get that momentum going. Second piece is that we also give every single student a scholarship of $500 every school year. So over the 4 years, we end up giving about $2,000 in scholarship to these students throughout. And it's more of a financial incentive to encourage them and also to help them, cover any sort of like last minute expenses that they have in school and not to worry about, money being like the factor of them not being able to pursue their goals. Um, and the third piece is that, as I mentioned before, right, computer science is very difficult, or the tech industry very challenging if you're not practicing or having someone who to guide you. So as part of the program, we have like a monthly coding workshops where we equip the students with technical skills so that they can be very ready when it comes to technical interviews and feeling much more confident through like the college process. And when they apply for jobs, they can able to showcase that they've done some work before, and they can feel much more confident going through the interview process. And the last piece of the program is that we also want to instill this idea of like, problem solving, right? Because as I mentioned before, we don't have more of us in the tech industry. That means that our problems don't go being solved, because if you're not there, you're not going to solve any problem. So as part of the program, we encourage that the students will think about a high level, a problem that they identify in their own community, and how can they use technology to help solve for it. So we call that Code for Impact. And over the 4 years, they work on that project. And we as a team assist them with just like the entire development cycle of it. So at a high level, I want to just kind of share what the program is about. It's for 4 years. These are the benefits we provide. And right now, we are actively recruiting for our next cohort of students. So if you or know anyone who is currently a high school senior about to start college in the fall, they have some interest in technology, I will encourage that you let them apply on sankofatech.org/AIT. And then on the next slide, I'm going to talk about like the requirements of the program. So at a high level, I think the requirements are not anything that's too complex. The first point is that they must be entering college this fall. So that means that they're currently high school senior and about to enroll in college in the fall. Second piece is that they must have some interest in pursuing a career in tech. So whether that means software engineering, product management, data science, security, program or project management, etc. All those are in scope for this program. So definitely, you can definitely apply if you have some idea or some interest in any of these fields that we listed here. The next one is that they must be of African descent. I think the problem that we outlined pertains to people who are Black and also who have African descent. So it's critical that we target the demographic and ensure that those are the ones that apply for the program. And the last piece is that it's very critical that we help people who are from like less fortunate backgrounds, right? Because oftentimes those who are poor are people who lack access. So we want to make sure we have a very like balanced view in the sense that you must come from very low income family or household, and we could definitely help prepare you for that. So at high level, apply at sankofatech.org/AIT. And maybe I'll take about a minute or two for any sort of questions that anyone has before we move on to the next session then. Going once, going twice. All right, cool. So if there are any questions, I'll pass it back to you, Sam.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to jump into our next section, and I kind of want to lay the groundwork for our conversation with some friends of mine who are going to be sharing some experiences about their career and hopefully get you excited about some of the different career paths in computer science. And so when you think about computer science, there are, and let me just share this quick joke. So a friend of mine, they came to me and said, "Oh, Kwakusa, you are in the IT industry, right?" And by IT industry, they mean maybe someone who is actually doing some networking, fixing computers. And there's this really big misunderstanding when you talk about computer science and all of the different career paths, right? Because it's not just one specific job line that you have, like Kwakuya Jumo IT, okay? So one of the things that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months is to invite people who are experts in their various career paths to share some of their experiences and to enable us to kind of have a better understanding of what their career looks like and how they work in their industry. So our first guest today is a lady who some of you may know very well. She's called Perpetual Bafor, and she's a data scientist working at the Learning Agency Lab. Now, before I invite Perpetual to come on camera, I want to have a quick question. For those of you who are using the menti.com app, I have a question about data science, just to test how much you know. So if you can, if you want to participate in this poll, just go to menti.com and then type in the code, and you will be able to be a participant in the next question. So I'll give everyone maybe 10 seconds. There's a question about data science to test your knowledge, to see how much you know about what data scientists actually do. Okay. Looks like people are joining, and I'm going to flip over to the next screen for our question. So here we go. All right, so what does a data scientist do? So look at your phone or look at your computer and answer. The first answer is they build chemical formulas with data in the lab. The second one is data scientists examine which questions need answering and where to find the related data. The third one is take pictures of data. And the last one is add data to solid state drives. Which one is it? Let's see who got this correct. All right, awesome. Looks like we have some data scientists in the house. Data scientists do actually examine questions based on data. They provide questions to answers. And our next guest is, as I mentioned to you, Perpetual Bafor. She is a data scientist working at the agency lab. It's an independent nonprofit dedicated to building tech tools powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. So she is a self-proclaimed data nerd, and who recently graduated from the University of, is it Pennsylvania? I don't know these acronyms. What is UPenn?
Yeah, Pennsylvania, you got it.
University of Pennsylvania. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm not too bad at that. All right. And so, yeah, she graduated with a degree in computer and information technology. So, Perpetual, now that we have the floor, can you tell us a little bit about just data science in general and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll say at a high level, it's very similar to the poll or the quiz question. So I'm working with data, and I'm thinking about how to solve specific problems using data. I will say data science is similar to tech, where there are many different paths in data science you can take. But I specifically am looking at the analytics side of data science. So when looking and working with data, can you analyze to find different patterns or relationships in data? So data can come in many different varieties, many different structures and shapes. I think a simple example is if you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, when you open Excel, you'll see like a spreadsheet where there are rows and there are columns. This is one kind of data that I might work with. So if I'm looking at a data set, let's say of student essays. So I work in education, so we're working with educational data. So there might be rows, each row represents a student, and then each column represents an essay that they wrote, the score that they got on the essay, how long that essay was. And then depending on the business problem, whether it's, can we find relationships between how a student writes and what their score is going to be, or can we think of a way to predict a student score or any different sort of outcome using this data set? Then I'm looking into, okay, how can I analyze, find patterns or relationships to solve this data problem? So data science is really, really fun and exciting if you like to solve problems using data, if you have an interest in math and statistics, but you also enjoy coding. So most of my time on a day-to-day basis, I'm writing code to analyze data, to look at data, to visualize data. So if you have an interest in visualizations, like you like looking at bar charts or different graphs because you want to present what you found with the data using visualizations, that's also very typical in a data science role. But that's more on the analytics side. I think there are other paths in data science I can't speak too much to, but there's also data engineering in data science, which focuses more on, let's say you work for Facebook and you want to figure out a way to have data be easily structured and available to different analysts or data scientists in the company. So how do you structure the data or create a system where data can be analyzed and used to solve business problems? That's more on the data engineering side. If you like looking for patterns or relationships in data or predicting outcomes using data, that's more on the analytics side.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that brief summary of what data scientists are all about. Now, another question I have for you is just maybe in regards to how to get started. I know that there are a number of parents who are on the line who potentially have who might have kids who are interested in maybe pursuing a career in data science. Where do you start? And how did you know that data science was something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about data science is there are many different paths to start a data science career. So I actually have an unconventional background. In college, I thought I wanted to go to law school. So I didn't have a degree in computer science. I was mostly taking courses for the law school track. But when I graduated and started working, I had a job working in research and statistical analysis. And part of that job required me to code. So I learned how to code on the job, and that's basically how I fell in love with it. And I'll say that regardless of where you are in your educational journey, if you are a high school student, a college student, a working professional, you can get started independently. There are many online courses that are really great to provide at least an introduction, just so you can see if you're interested in it. I wouldn't recommend just jumping straight into a course or degree program because it comes with a cost and there's that risk. But there are a lot of great courses on YouTube, on Coursera, on Udemy that can at least give you exposure just so you can see if you're interested in. I think then, depending on where you are educationally, you can determine the next best step. So if you're a college student, you can totally major in computer science and then graduate and enter data science, because data science uses a lot of computer science fundamentals. I think a growing number of schools are also creating college majors just on data science or just on data analytics. So you can look into your school to see if they offer that as a major or a minor. And then if you're a working professional looking to transition, which was my story, I think one option is to see if there are opportunities at your current job to maybe develop skills in data, whether it is learning to code, whether it's learning statistics, maybe it's learning about machine learning, or you can look to boot camps. So boot camps are kind of these shorter programs. They're not necessarily a degree, but they could be 3 months, 6 months, a year. And it's kind of like an accelerated, super fast, super intense program to get you started in data science. And then there's also a program, which is my alma mater. It's a pretty unique program. It's a graduate school degree, but for people who didn't study computer science undergrad, but want to transition into a tech role. I'm going to enter the name of the program in the chat. It's called Computer and Information Technology. So that's for working professionals who are now making a mid-career switch.
Awesome. That is some great information. I see a question from James, and I think Perpetual actually answered that question in terms of what's the best transition for an adult who actually wants to enter into the market with no experience. So she talked about boot camps, and I think we'll have resources that we'll share with the entire community once we're done with the program. Now, let's answer the elephant in the room, right? Okay, so all of these computer science programs are good, they're great. What makes it worthwhile? Can we maybe talk a little bit just about maybe expectation salary-wise, and hopefully get some idea of whether this is, you know, a meaningful job in terms of how much money you're going to get at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a great and very important question. I think with data science, it's definitely a great return on your investment. So if you look on Google and look at sort of the average salary ranges for the US or for specific companies, you'll see that the salary is typically in the 6 figures, which is pretty accurate. So it is a well-paying job, and it's easy to make a good amount of money even when you're starting out at the entry level. The other great thing about a data science role is you don't necessarily need a master's degree to become a data scientist. Those with master's degrees definitely tend to earn more income, or more likely will be promoted to a managerial position, but it doesn't necessarily require you to have a master's degree. So if you think about the return on investment, you're not necessarily taking out, a whole bunch of loans for a master's program or a graduate school program in order to get that data science job. So you're able to earn a meaningful income without necessarily steeping, pretty intensely in debt.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, we are going to have a breakout room for those who are interested in having a one-on-one with Perpetual along with some others. So we'll have some breakout rooms. So if you want more information about data science and how to get into it, Perpetual will be available in the breakout room shortly after we're done with our two other guests. So I want to say thank you, Perpetual, and stay tuned for our breakout into the rooms. All right, I am going to switch over to our next participant, Gloria, and I'm going to bring her on camera if I can find her. Where are you? Oh, there she is. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see. Perfect. All right, Gloria here is a UX researcher. What does that mean? So let's take a quick quiz for those of you who actually might have some experience with those who work in the user experience field. Okay, I think that's the wrong question. Let me go back. Sorry, I might have missed a question. Okay, I think this is the right one. Hopefully it should work. There we go. Okay, so here's the question. Which one is true about UX design? Option number one, it says you need to be a good artist to become a UX designer. Option number two, a UX designer is responsible for understanding the needs of a user. And lastly, UX designers cannot code. Which one is the correct option here? All right, let's see what we have. Perfect. We have some really smart people in this room today. And the correct answer, of course, is number 2, 14. So I just forgot to select that option. So thank you for that. So over to you, Gloria. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do and what it means for folks who are interested in user experience design?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gloria. I am currently a UX researcher and designer at Dell. Usually you don't really get the opportunity to do both, but at work, I've been trying to get the best of both worlds because I studied human-computer interaction at the University of Michigan, and that gives you leverage to do both design and research. But the ultimate goal is to specialize in one, of course. But currently at work, as a researcher and a designer, we're working on a few different things. We're working on something that I'm not really sure if I could talk about, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. We're creating a developer's portal for just APIs. And so internal and external users, whether it's our customers, will be able to just go inside of the tool and be able to grab the API they need for their devices, products, or whatever it is that they're using. But what else is UX? So UX is basically what I call the Marines of technology. So you got to be in the front line. And in order to do this role, you need understanding of empathy and, of course, research, a little bit of research background. And you don't necessarily need to have technical experience, but it is helpful. And so the pathway that I went through was I went to Syracuse and I studied information management technology. And my concentrations there was project management and web design. But I found out about UX later on after I was about to graduate. And so when I got into Dell, that was something I wanted to do to make sure that I can get my hands on a job as being a UXer. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that brief introduction. I have the opportunity to once in a while work with some of our UX folks at work at Amazon, and there is an enormous amount of work that needs to be done in order to build experiences, right? I own a service at Amazon AWS. It's called AWS Amplify. And before launching, we went through an exercise where we had surveys conducted to get input from users to really understand what would be the best experience. So you're right, you are the kind of front line of the technology space, ensuring that you can capture information from customers and translate those into, specific, really good experiences, right? So tell us a little bit more about, what the path looks like for someone. Maybe someone on the line here is looking at you and is inspired, right? I would like to follow in the footsteps of Gloria. What does the path look like moving forward? And just a quick shout out here. She, go Blue, University of Michigan. So yeah, just want to shout that out. Yeah. So
I do think
yeah.
The cool thing about my field is that it's constantly growing, and it's in all sectors. So it's in healthcare, it's in hospitality, it's in technology. And so it's one of those fields that's going to be there for a very, 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 very long time, because you need to be able to understand a user in order to sell a product. And everybody wants to sell in order to make income for their employees and to just make revenue for their business. And so for someone that's not in the technology pathway, just like how I did it, I would say UX design is probably the easy, I don't want to say easy, but let's just use the word easy, the easiest way to get into UX. For UX research, they're very critical on getting a master's. And so they want you to have as much experience, and it's really difficult to get a UX research job if you don't have a master's. Sadly, that's just how the industry is, because they want the best of the best. They usually even hire PhD students as well, because they've done a lot of quantitative and quantitative research. But for UX design, you can do classes online, you can do boot camps, you can do certificate programs. Even Google has one, I believe it's free at the moment, I think for the first few classes, and after that you have to pay. But there's a lot of opportunities to get into UX design. However, with design, you also need to have that creative background. You also need to be able to have an open mind and different perspective on different things, because if someone is going to critique your work and you feel so passionate about, you want the X to be right there, right next to the T, and someone tells you, no, I'd rather have the X next to the S, then you have a really big problem about that. Maybe you want to figure out if this will be a great path for you. But for untraditional, you can do the Coursera's, you can do the boot camps. There's a lot of opportunities for UX design. Like I said, for UX research, they do require to get the master's degree.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And, Gloria mentioned a lot of resources, Coursera, Udemy, and so on. We're going to share all those resources to you in a group that Joe and I kind of look over. It's called the Ghanaian Adventist and Tech Community. We're trying to build a community of technologists in the Ghanaian Adventist circles. So we'll be able to share some of those resources. If you join, you have to join though, right? If you join this group and help us to kind of share this knowledge and to be able to facilitate some of the careers that you could potentially be on. The last question to you, Gloria. I always ask this question because it's important for parents, it's important for people who are considering this career path. How lucrative is this career path in terms of money? What are some of the expectations of how far you could potentially go? And maybe you can just kind of set a baseline for us to get some context on anyone who's contemplating UX research or UX design.
I think the best tool to look at is Glassdoor. And because different industries and different companies have what they start people at. And it's also with your qualifications as well, and your experience, that all plays a big role. However, Like I said before, UX is really growing, and it's one of those fields that they need a lot of people in, because it's such a niche that a lot of people don't really look into it, because it's like they're not sure how to get into it, or it's like, oh, I need so much experience to do the job. But it's one of those fields that once you get in, it's growth from then on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. So once again, we will have a breakout room with Gloria. If you do have any specific questions regarding UX design or research, she'll be available to answer. We're going to move on to our next participant, a good friend of mine, Frank. And he's going to be talking about how he hacks computers all day long.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Sam. So excuse me for my voice. My name is Frank Adako-Yado. I'm a cybersecurity consultant for Arvanard. So Arvanard is a tech consulting firm. So we utilize a whole bunch of applications, right, and deliver services to our clients. I've been in the industry for a while. So I started my career as IT support and then cybersecurity. I've been there for over 10 years now. Specialized because I'm a consultant. I get lucky to work on multiple projects, right? So moving from one company to the other, doing, multiple jobs, different roles. So I'm more kind of specialized in threat and vulnerability management, endpoint security, cyber defense operations, cloud security. And then I do have a couple of certifications that I can brag about, because mostly in the cybersecurity space, you need to have something, right, that you can, employers actually depend on to even calculate your salary. People ask most of the questions like, are you a hacker? I can't remember there was a time this woman sent me a phone and be like, hey, Frank, church member, can you hack this phone for me? I was like, come on, So the thing is, for me, mostly depending on my role, I sometimes do hack to secure organizational systems. I don't hack for financial gain, or maybe I don't hack to steal money, right? Or maybe break down systems. So we do have 3 types of hackers. We have the black hat, we call them red team. We have the white hat, we call them blue team, and then we have the gray one. So people that actually can hack your system, but they're just doing it for testing, right? They will not even exploit any of your IP address or any of your systems for financial gains. So mostly on my day-to-day, right, what I'm working on right now is helping. So mostly as a consultant, depending on the team that I join, I get to work on multiple things, as I said earlier. So what I'm working on now is helping a state to actually migrate their on-prem resources to cloud, to AWS. On-prem is, on premises, like you have your data center, you have all your laptops, desktops, everything within the organization, right? And then the cloud is pretty much moving into AWS, Amazon Azure, or Google GCP, so you can rent some of your resources and then use the infrastructure on there. So to be able to be a cybersecurity consultant, mostly depending on your role, depending on your background and where you want to go, right? So I get people reach out to me, hey Frank, I want to get a job in cybersecurity, and I ask him, her, like, what's your background? Like, what do you know now, and where do you want to go in the future? So I have people from business background, right? So marketing, doing accounting and all that. So the good thing is, if you're from business background, you have experience in accounting, like audit and all that, you can transition into security compliance and risk management. It's the same process, right? So auditors actually audit account books and make sure all these accountants are doing exactly what they're supposed to do on paper, and also reflecting the systems. So if you have that background, then I'll more or less advise you that you start with a certification in CISA, right? So Certified Information Security Auditor. So you pretty much do IT audits instead of doing accounting audits. It's just the same process, same analogy, same process, but instead of doing accounting books, now you do IT systems. So depending on your background, I'll be able to guide you and help you where exactly you want to go, right? What's your background now? What experience do you have? And where do you want to go in the future? What do you want to become in the future? I do have people from health. What I do is there's so many compliance programs. For example, we do have HIPAA. We do have high trust common security frameworks. It's a list of frameworks that every organization that process any health related data need to be they need to actually implement it to stay in compliance or to maintain compliance. So these are some of the things that I talk to folks whenever they ask me about my career. If you really want to get started, I think it's a case by case here, but there is a site, CompTIA.com. It do have so many certifications that can guide you through the process. You can start from A+. CompTIA A+ talks about, basic IT stuff, right? So it talks about IT hardware. It talks about, softwares like, operating system software, application system software. And then it talks about data and how to even secure data, right? On-prem or on your cloud. And then also other resources that I can give you to folks that are interested is they can do Google. There are so many certifications that you can have depending on your background. There's iscsquare.org.com. They have so many certifications. I will encourage whoever is interested in cybersecurity or information security to actually look into this website. And I think they will learn a lot. And if they do have any question, can you reach out to me through one of our groups, and then we'll be able to assist them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that very generous information. Now, for those of you who that information went completely off over the top of your head, Frank is going to be available in a room so you can chat with him. But my last question to you, Frank, and I think we're doing pretty well on time, is that there are a number of different paths, even within the cybersecurity kind of career, right? And for someone who, like I said, does not, like, maybe someone is in high school, okay, and they enjoy playing around with computers. Maybe they would like to at least have some awareness of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Can you break it down for us a little, just in terms of, for example, what a day-to-day activity will look like for you when you go to work? And are you like opening up computers, with wires, or are you behind your computer just using software to connect with other networks and stuff? What does that look like for you?
All right, thank you. So the thing is, if you are a security analyst, engineer, consultant, manager, you do have to always kind of get your gears ready, right? Because once you log into the system, or even at night, you might not know what may happen, right? There might be somebody somewhere, I don't want to mention any country, trying to like get into your network, right?
Oh,
these guys are stubborn guys.
Sorry, I spoke too soon.
Yeah, these are the people that are actually trying to hack you for financial gains, right? They're trying to like break your system out so that maybe your data sitting on some of your your Linux or Windows servers might not work, or maybe like having a UX UI, you have some design sitting on your PC, but somebody hack it, right? So here is in the case where you have to always be ready for anything that might happen, because anything can happen at any time. So what I do on a daily basis is mostly I'll go to work, I pray early in the morning, and then because I don't know what might happen, pretty much. And then I'll open my laptop and see what's going on. So mostly I'll check my email first, and then see what's going on, what are the news, right? What are the updates going on? And then I check my group chat. We do have like group chat because we are working on the project, and see if there's anything going on. And then I talk to you, pretty much go through. I always have a to-do list, stuff that I need to do today. If I'm not able to do it, I'm more or less like, push it to the next day, because there's always stuff to do, always, because anything can happen. So mostly I'll do that. And it's good to always have a plan, right? So I have my plan, which is my to-do list, and I go through those steps, and I check mark the ones that I'm able to do, the ones that I need to, push it due to some issues, or due to me reaching out to some of our team members to kind of give me access to some of these systems, or maybe talking to my manager for whatever reason, or maybe even going to like plan a meeting on how I can more or less take care of one of the issues that has been reported to my team. So stuff come from all over. Let me say that. So you always have to be ready. Kind of get your gears. You can be, mostly some people call me the police, like mostly they're IT security people. that we're trying to like block them and not giving them the right access for them to do what they need to do. And there's always sometimes it's just, conversation back and forth. The idea here is for them to do their job and then being able to do the role. Each member in the information technology team has a role, and then your access is based on whatever role that you have been assigned to. So it's my task to make sure I check it and make sure you don't have enough access, right? More than what you need to do or perform your job duties.
Got it. Thank you so much. All right. I want to make sure that everyone is just aware of some of the opportunities financially with the various roles, whether it's software engineering, cybersecurity, UX research and design, or even data science. And so I think Dr. Nate posted a question. I just want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Nate. I attended his session on why it's a good time to start investing in stocks. So for those of you who want that kind of seed money to be able to maybe potentially take some of that money and start investing, going into the tech industry is a very good starting point because the salary is pretty lucrative. So Frank, give me just 2 seconds of how much money you can earn from cybersecurity.
Yeah, so I check now, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually have a number, 6 figures. So you can make it between, depending on the use percentile, right? Whether you're like entry level, mid-career, or you're like more professional, you can make between, and then depending on other factors too, like your state, cost of living and all that. So based on Dallas, actually is looking around like between, let me see. So between 105, for I guess mid-career, and then entry level can be like 60K, 105, and you can go above, right? Depending on your experience, also the number of certifications that you have or credentials that you have, cost of living and other factors.
Fantastic, awesome. All right, cool. So at this time, we have an opportunity to look at some of the quiz results before we go into our Q&A section and allow you the opportunity to ask questions. So I am going to, first of all, open up the breakout rooms, and I want to shout out to my nephew and my niece, Stephanie and Kenneth, who have joined from Canada. There they are. So let me just showcase this 1 second. And so here are the results of our quiz. All right. So here's the leaderboard. Kenneth and Stephanie are our winners. My niece and nephew. So great job, guys. And by the way, I did not give them the questions, just for full disclosure. They had no knowledge of the questions. So Kenneth, how old are you?
I'm 16.
All right. Yeah, 16. That's going to be the next software engineering manager at Google over there. So we're building up the next generation. All right. Cool. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go briefly, so quick change of plans. We're going to go into our Q&A. Let me jump over to this screen. So in your menti.com application, you should be able to type in questions. So for those of you who do not want to, post on WhatsApp, or sorry, not WhatsApp, on Zoom, post a question to the menti.com app anonymously, and then I can direct some of your questions to our panel here today. So let's start with a couple of questions, and then we'll do breakout rooms if we have time, so that we can all make sure we get the information we need. So any questions? I know folks are probably still typing, so I'll give it a couple of seconds. You can also post if you're fine with posting your questions. And okay, Prince has a question, and I think that will go to you, Gloria. What is the difference between UI and UX?
Yeah, so a UI developer compared to a UX engineer, there's two differences. So for UI, they just kind of get to the final product of front end and just beautifying a high fidelity prototype compared to like a UXer that goes from the low end all the way to high. And so for UI, usually the job description has coding experiences included for a UI compared to a UXer. I
Awesome.
hope that answers your question.
Yes, I hope that answers your question, Prince. There is another question I think any one of our panel can take, including Joe. It says, what is the average years needed to enter either of the fields? What is the average age? So let me know who wants to take that.
Maybe I'm a little confused with the question. What is the average years to enter either of the fields? Are you saying like someone coming out of college, or you're talking about, you know, you don't really have the experience yet and you're just trying to get into it?
Yeah, let's just assume that maybe they're just fresh out of college, right? And they're looking for an opportunity to, and that's the kind of challenge with the tech industry, because all of these jobs require you to have a minimum years of experience. And so, you know, for someone who doesn't have, they're just fresh out of college, what are some strategies that we can share with folks, and what things can they do to kind of, you know, maybe get some experience before they can land a job?
Okay, I did 3 internships before I finally graduated. So every year within my college career, I had an internship where I was doing something, and that helped me get the experience I needed to even land a job. And so that's the first thing I would say. While you're in college, make sure you get internships, you work on campus, do something related to the field you want to get into. While I was on campus, I was a computer consultant. So I was actually someone going into classrooms and fixing computers and taking things out, you know, just to put something on the resume, because as a student, you're in classes, but so is so many other people. You want to be as competitive as you could be when you're applying to roles.
Thank you. Perpetual.
Yeah, I can speak on data science. I'm going to type a name of a website called Kaggle, Kaggle. It's a pretty popular platform for those interested in data science. They have different data sets that they publish, as well as competitions you can enter to kind of practice your data analysis skills or your data science or machine learning skills. I'll also say doing projects. If you don't have a lot of experience, thinking of developing a portfolio. This is something that I actually am interested in doing. So if you have, maybe you're interested in predictive modeling, which is one area of data science where you're trying to figure out a good way to come up with a prediction for an outcome given a set of data, right? You can come up with a portfolio that displays all of these different projects that you've done, all the different algorithms or machine learning things that you've done. And that can be a good way to show employers that you're passionate about this work, even if you don't have the work experience to back you up.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any other person wants to add anything to that in terms of experience? Otherwise,
I definitely want to emphasize on the projects. I think that is so important. I totally forgot about that. Definitely get projects in if you can. Just do things by yourself, do things with friends. It all looks good.
Yep, it's very good advice. All right. So we're going to tackle the next question, and I'm going to take a shot at answering this one since it is my area of expertise. I am a software engineering manager at Amazon, and the question is there a huge difference between software developer and software engineering? And the answer to that is really just semantics. This is just a title that some companies will use. Some companies often will use software developer, some will use software engineering. In my previous role, before I joined Amazon, I was a senior software developer. A lot of my role was, you know, building systems, coding, ensuring best practices, and other things. I think each company has their own definition of what the role means. So, there is really no generic definition as to this is a software developer and this is software engineering, but each role is catered towards a specific company, a specific business. So in the software engineering industry, you'll have a full stack engineer, you'll have a front end engineer, you'll have a back end engineer, right? So there are different types of roles even within software engineering. And for our next tech workshop, we're going to be focusing on software engineering and some of the roles available. We're going to be looking at how to build a good resume, and then ultimately what both Perpetual and Gloria have talked about. You just graduated from college, or you just finished your internship. How do you build your portfolio to ensure that you can get a job after you graduate from school? So that will be for our next workshop. All right, looks like we have some more questions come in. So we'll jump quickly to that as well. Next one says, average years for someone new or someone who is trying to switch careers. Sorry. What is the average years for someone new or someone who is trying to switch careers? Anyone want to take that? I think it's related to the previous question. I think we talked about that a little. So I think it just really depends. There a lot of jobs, I create like new job requisitions for some of the engineers that I'm trying to hire on my team, depending on the level. Sometimes we're hiring like an L4, which is typically someone fresh out of college. So we understand that person doesn't have 3 to 5 years of experience. So you can apply for different job levels. There are some companies who actually advertise like a junior software engineer or a senior software engineer. So that will really dictate the kind of years that you'll need. But as our panelists have already discussed, try and also accompany that kind of experience with the coding projects that you can do on the side, because that is also a factor when we're looking to hire. It's not just about the fact that you've been working at a company for 3 or 4 years, but what's the scope? What's the impact that you've had? If you're able to build your own project or your own piece of software that people are actually using, that carries a lot of weight. Okay. Anyone else? I don't see anyone in the chat. So we're going to move to our next question over here. How to get your foot in the door in cybersecurity when you have a non-IT degree? All right, over to you, Frank.
All right, so mostly it would depend, right? So on your background, depending on where you are now and what do you want to do in cybersecurity. As you said, Sam, cybersecurity is huge. It's more look at it as specialty of like physicians, like doctors. You have to actually plan and know like skills you have and what you want to do in the future. So if you want to go on information security route, which is more, it deals with security compliant, risk management, security audits, right? There's more like information security. But if you want to do more technical side, which is like cyber security, that requires you getting your hands on with you can start more or less learning about security plus, getting some hands on Linux boxes, doing Linux deployment, Windows deployment, learning about being an ethical hacker. You more or less hack, to protect, being part of the blue team. You don't hack for financial gains. So this is like a case by case. What do you have now, right? What's your background, and what do you want to do in IT security? Do you want to go information security route? Do you want to go technical route? Do you want to be in network security? Do you want to be cyber security? Do you want to be endpoint protection? So I think it will more or less like a case by case, and it will depend on your background.
Awesome. Maybe you want to take the next one as well. It says, what would you suggest for getting a cybersecurity internship?
All right, thanks. So mostly, depending on the school, there are some companies that actually come on site. These universities and colleges, they come to hire people be aggressive, be open, be wide. Reach out to the people that you know that are in the industry. Check with them if they do have any internship position, at their job, and be curious. They have, if you go to Indeed, you can find some internship, IT security internship positions. Apply to them. Apply as much as you can. Use your resume. You can even create an account on Indeed and then make your resume available in a PDF form, and then keep applying because you never know. And then mostly have somebody who's in the industry to kind of go over your resume so that he can add some words that actually recruiters are looking for. So there's this application that they use to scan resumes. So they scan it, and then based on the words, the keywords that they put in, it will flag your resume, and then they do like a quick, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, but not even a minute, 5 seconds review, and then based on that, they might pick you. I can't remember. So my experience back in college, I did apply. I went to an information session. I applied for the internship, and it was almost about, maybe about 500 to about 1,000 people. My school has a lot of, immigrants from India. And then they apply, I'm telling you, these guys will give you competition. They apply to every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the company that you go to, man, there will be an Indian person there. These guys are aggressive. So yeah, they are. So you have to, I was aggressive, and then I was able to get so my manager actually narrowed it down. I think out of 500 employees, we narrowed it down to 5. And then, we sat for interview, and then, God being so good, I was able to select as an overall winner. And then I got an internship, and I stay in there. I work hard so that I'll be able to get a full-time position. I think they ended up extending my internship and then turning into a full-time position for me. It was a great experience, and I like it.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. All right. There's a question to me. It says, Samuel, how many years have you been in software engineering, and what is your stack? Okay. So I've been doing this for maybe 18 years. I don't look that old, but I'm not that old, am I? No, I don't look that old. Okay. So let me just give you a little background. So I started off computer science program after after Prempeh College in Ghana, right? So I went to Prempeh College. I started at Valley View for 2 years, and then I moved to India. So Frank was telling us about these Indians. I know them very well. So I lived in India, lived and worked in India for about 6 years. And then I moved over to the United States. I did my master's at the University of Michigan in computer science and information systems, and then got a job in Seattle. I worked there for about 8 years. I was a senior software engineer when I left the company. And then I moved to Amazon, AWS, as a software engineer. And so I worked for maybe about 2 years and decided that, and it kind of goes into our next question. It says, what advice would you give someone who wants to be a leader in tech/manager and not necessarily wanting to code? That was exactly my position about 3 years ago. I said, I've done my fair share of coding, and I wanted an opportunity to have more impact because, like Joe mentioned, there are not a lot of Black managers. And I'd recently transitioned to become an engineering manager at Amazon. We're like unicorns. It's very rare to see a Black manager. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this specific program of being able to help people. I didn't have any help. I didn't have anyone to coach me on, hey, these are some tips you can have. These are things you can do. But specifically to answer the question about, how to become a leader in tech, my first question to you is, what is your why, right? Why do you want to become a manager? Because if you're intending just to kind of, some people will use the word boss people around or just be able to determine what people do, then it's really not going to be enjoyable for you, right? So you really have to understand, why do you want to make that transition? Why do you want to become a manager as opposed to become like an individual contributor? For me personally, like I said, I had done my share of coding, and I wanted to develop new skills. being a manager, it requires you to have people skills. I own a full AWS service, so the operations of the service, the the design, we launch new features. I'm responsible for hiring new engineers, right? So there's a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of emphasis on making sure that you can build a high performance team. We'll talk a little bit more about, we'll do a session specifically on leadership, right? Maybe in another session, but in kind of like in the short form, understanding why you want to be a leader is important. I can give you specific directions on kind of my process, because I became a manager during COVID, right? We were all working from home, and there were specific things that I did that helped me to kind of make the leap from an individual contributor who was coding to a manager who now actually owns the entire service and hires people to build features and stuff. So we'll do another session specifically on that. But for now, understand your why, and it'll help you kind of move into that specific path. Let's go on to the next question. Can you apply for a senior SDE role at AWS as a new grad? The emphatic answer to that question is no. So if you are fresh out of college, right? I bring in a lot of interns for my team during the summer, and we also hire new grads by offering them like return offers. So it's impossible for you to qualify to be a senior SDE if you are a new grad. So you have to do the time. You got to put in the work before you can gradually become a senior engineer. I hope that answers your question. All right, next one. What is the average amount of years to get a degree or start in career in the tech industry? I'm going to ask Joe to take this one, since it's probably related to some of the work he's doing with Sankofa Tech.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we touched upon this briefly before, where like there's no like precise set amount of time that you should have before you get into it. I would say that as soon as possible, you feel very confident, have the experience, you should go ahead and apply for jobs, right? Because the jobs definitely cater towards different experiences. So there are jobs for people who are just right out of college who are looking for jobs. There are jobs for people who are much more experienced looking for it. So I wouldn't just like maybe time box yourself that let me just wait until I have X amount of experience before I apply. Once you feel confident and you're ready to apply for jobs, just go ahead and apply for it. I don't think you should definitely wait for a set amount of time. That's the best that I would say. I also say that as the world changes, right, degrees sometimes are becoming more like less important because companies really want you for your skill set and not for the paper you have. And I think, contrary to other degree programs, let's say medicine, et cetera, where they emphasize a lot on schooling, I think depending on career and technology, if you have the skill set and you can definitely show that you can actually do the work, sometimes, companies will hire you. And I'll caveat that it's possible that those are like edge cases. It's not the norm, right? So don't just go drop out of school right away, but really, really work on yourself. And I feel like if you have the skill set, are competent enough, you can definitely land a job. So yeah.
Thank you, Joe. And I want to stress on the last part of that, which was basically apply. I can't stress that enough. Don't wait till you think you are qualified. Just apply and start getting that experience with interviewing. And you never know that, what company is willing to take a chance on you and maybe even train you up without necessarily having the requisite skills. Awesome. So the next question, I think we have two more questions. Are technical interviews for data scientists similar to ones for software engineers? Perpetual.
Yes, so they're not totally similar. They're similar in the sense that there is a technical interviewing component. So you have to demonstrate knowledge of statistics. You have to demonstrate your ability to code. You have to demonstrate your knowledge of machine learning algorithms, if that's what the role is calling for. And so I think the difference here is that whereas for a software engineer technical interview, it's heavily focused on writing code that's based on a knowledge of data structures and algorithms. That's a specific knowledge area in computer science. Whereas for data science interviews, it's focused much more on knowledge in statistics, machine learning, thinking about programming languages like SQL, which is a language you code in when you're looking to fetch data from a database, or Python, which is a popular programming language for data analysis, machine learning, data engineering. Software engineering, you're also going to be programming, but it'll be heavily focused much more, like I said, about thinking of cases where you're trying to find data, locate data, or store data using your knowledge of computer science algorithms. Also, one thing I'll add is that for data scientists, a lot of the interviews, the technical interviews, are also based in solving business problems. So thinking about what kind of product the company is selling and how to solve business problems using the data.
Awesome, thank you. I think you can take the last question as well. It says, what is the difference between a data engineer and a data analyst?
This is a great question. And I've often find trouble trying to quickly summarize the difference. The best way I can sort of separate it is, so the data engineer prepares the data for the data analyst to actually analyze. So think about an app like YouTube, right? Oftentimes when you're playing around on YouTube, you're watching videos, you're entering comments, you're liking videos, right? All of that data is being stored in a database, right? The data engineer has to think about, how do I organize this data, whether it's a user liking a video or a user entering a comment or a user uploading the video? How do I organize it in a clean way? That way the data analyst or the data scientist can quickly solve problems, can quickly analyze what's happening with users on our app. Then the data analyst is like, okay, we now have this data on how many users are liking this video or how many users are signing up to create an account. Can we solve a business problem using this data? So yeah, quickly to summarize, the data engineer prepares the data and structures the data so that it can be ready for analysis with a data analyst.
Thank you so much, Perpetual. And there's a question in the chat. It says, what is your advice for people seeking to advance their career but are timid and they don't speak up much? That's adding at me. Okay. I think it's a very interesting question, because a lot of us, right? If you look at my career and some of the interesting kind of paths that I took, it's very easy to get intimidated because of the fact that there are so little engineers who look like me out there, right? There are so little engineers who look like Perpetual and Gloria. And so when you get into that room and you have India for all of these Indians, the Indians, the Chinese, and of course you have the Caucasians, who are part of the mix. And then you have this very small percentage of people that can be a really big factor to kind of limiting how confident you are. And that's why it's important to have programs like this to help build, the confidence. Like if, 20 years ago when I was in school and I was, hoping to get a career in computer science, if I had a support network, I think I would have been a lot more confident to be able to firstly understand some of the challenges you're going to be facing at work, how to deal with these problems. A lot of them are people focused, right? A lot of them are understanding how different cultures work. Let me give you an example. When I worked in India, there was this particular guy, okay? I'm Ghanaian, okay? You greet them and you say good morning. This dude, every single morning, consistently will come to work and I would say hello and he would just walk by me. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I mean, is there something that is, wrong? But it's a cultural thing. When Indians come into work, they're just focused. They don't have this notion of like greeting in the morning like we do. And it bothered me. It bothered me for a very long time. Now, here's the catch. When I joined Amazon, the same thing happened. Guess what? My friend, baby. Like it couldn't bother me at all because I already knew the culture. And for a lot of us, we don't understand and we don't have that context of working with Indians or Chinese or with these other people. So my advice to you, please join this community that we are building to help share some of this kind of experiences that some of us have had. I know that there are a lot of other professionals out there who've been through similar things and who can provide some context for, you know, some of you who are looking to start a career in the tech industry and who just don't know where to start. We want to do a lot of work on resumes. Next time I have a friend who works at LinkedIn, and I think Joe is also going to hopefully help us bring a recruiter. And we're going to focus on how to get visible, right? Be visible in the community, how to prepare your resumes. These are all factors which will help you to be able to get a good job. So hopefully that answers your question, and then we can move on. So there's one last question. We're running out of time. We want to be very, I know there's a lot of questions coming in right now, but we want to be cognizant of time. We said that we wanted to cap this in about an hour, but we'll go over by maybe another 2 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up for today. We will definitely have more sessions, so look out for more workshops coming in. So I'm going to see if I can kind of combine some questions together in the interest of time. So one of them is there a focus of security in a system administrator? Okay. So next one, what are the prerequisites for AWS certification? I am a certified solutions architect. There are no prerequisites. You just study and you can get certified. Like AWS is for all of the different presenters who have talked today, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's data science, whether it's UX research, there is a component of cloud. The cloud services are now taking mainstream, whether it's Google, whether it's AWS, or whether it's Microsoft Azure. So at some point in your career, it doesn't matter whether you're working with cybersecurity, data science, UX, you're going to have to learn the cloud. AWS is a good bet. I'm biased because that's where I work, right? But other people will argue with me. Joe will probably say, we should do Google because he works there, right? So, but learn the cloud. The cloud is going to be there for a long time. All right, moving on to the next question. What other paths are available to professionals who do not want to be managers, but have longevity in their career in tech? That's also a very good question. We will dive into details later. Like I said, in the interest of time, I don't want to go too much into detail, but you can survive, not just survive, you can thrive as a senior SDE at Amazon. I'm going to throw some numbers out there just because I want to inspire people. There are some senior engineers working at Amazon making more than $350,000 a year. Okay, same thing with Google. Same thing at Facebook. You don't need to be a manager to make good money. You can still be an engineer, a data scientist, a UX research, and make in excess of $200,000 to $300,000 a year. All right, so that's something you should consider as well. Can you share your LinkedIns? Yes, of course. Once again, I think there is a link to join the WhatsApp group. It's a community that we're trying to build. So please be a part of the community. We have a lot of experience to share. There are other folks who we will find to come and also present their careers and share some knowledge. But I hope this has been really useful. I get super excited about this stuff because once again, I get an opportunity to share some of my learnings, and I want to thank Joe, who's my partner in crime, who've been working together to kind of help build this community. Gloria, Perpetual, and Frank, I want to thank you all for being a part of this program, which hopefully has been beneficial to you. So I'm going to open it up to Joe if you have some last comments, and then we can kind of wrap it up.
Oh, sorry. I think that's pretty much it on my side. Just want to echo what Sam said. Thank you all so much for making time. Pretty much like the whole goal of this is help each other out, right? Because I feel like the Indians, the Chinese do it. How about us, the Ghanaians, right? If we could come together collectively, we could help each other get jobs. And I think a good thing is that because most of us work at companies, let's say that Sam works at Amazon, you're trying to find a job there. Reach out to Sam and get a referral. You are 100% more likely to get a job that way than you applying by yourself. So like, let's leverage each other as a network and just help each other get better. I think that's the whole goal of this. We're not here to make money, just pretty much help each other out and just get better. So yeah, back to you, Sam's gonna wrap up for us.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. There's a question about the fact that we were supposed to go into breakout rooms. As I mentioned, I was a little overwhelmed with some of the questions. What we're going to do is we're going to plan for a 2-hour session next time because our speakers do have other commitments as well. So I just want to be mindful of their commitment. We had targeted about an hour, maximum an hour and a half. So if you are interested in speaking directly to Perpetual, to Gloria, or to myself about software engineering, or to Frank about cybersecurity, we are going to have our information available in the WhatsApp group that Joe is going to post in the chat right now. There we go. So please join the group. We'll have a follow-up, which will have maybe a document with all of the links that the speakers spoke about. And then hopefully their LinkedIn contacts, so you can message them and get more information as needed. So once again, on behalf of the crew, I want to thank you all for participating in the first Careers in Tech workshop. Once again, we will be doing a number of these in the next upcoming months. Thank you for your time and enjoy your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe